Hey everyone, what is going on? What is going on? Pardon the shortage of music. There's obviously no shortage of music, but this was kind of an impromptu. We got two things going on here. All right, sorry about that, guys. Hopefully you can hear me. Let me do some checks here, some sound checks here, and I'll give the official introduction in just a second here. All right, guys. So give me just a second here. Uh, yeah, I got a bunch of tabs open, guys. So I apologize here. Make sure we're coming through. There we go. So hopefully I'm coming through on Substack. Yeah, I got a bunch of tabs open, so I apologize for that. I think we're coming through. All right, guys. All right, guys. So again, welcome to our broadcast here. This is kind of an impromptu broadcast here. I'm a live streamer, content creator, executive men's coach, as well, amongst other things, a father, a husband, and all those kind of different things. But today we're talking about the invisibility of success, why high achieving men feel unseen. That is somewhat of a quiet phenomenon that a lot of us high achieving men are dealing with. So we're going to dive more into that. My name is Curtis Brooks, and let's see, get my information here. My name is Curtis Brooks. I help high achieving men master the art of integrated leadership and authentic masculine presence through comprehensive transformation rather than quick fixes. So, if you are a man who are is in need of that integrated leadership piece of it, uh, reach out to me. So, again, this conversation is going to be not too long. I typically will have long conversations, but we're staying on task, or staying on point, because I have a webinar. So one of the couple of reasons, two reasons why I'm doing this more impromptu broadcast. That's because I do have a free webinar that's coming up and it's taking place. It's called Uncovering the Core, Your Path from Success to Significance. And we're talking about high achieving men. Again, one of the challenges that high achieving men deal with is that invisibility, being invisible. And obviously, it's not just relegated to high achieving men, that's for sure. So we're streaming to Substack. We're streaming to Facebook. We're streaming to a couple other platforms, or not, Facebook, Substack, and YouTube. So no LinkedIn today. Give me a second here, guys. So again, my first time streaming to Substack. Definitely not my first time doing a live stream, but the first time streaming to Substack. Wanted to make sure everything is going a-okay over there. So today, again, we're talking about the invisibility of success, why high achieving men feel unseen. It is somewhat of a phenomenon. I had actually had this conversation, a similar conversation, in lieu of promoting the free webinar that I'll share information with you in just a minute there. But I did have a similar conversation on TikTok yesterday. So I have access to TikTok, their live studio through my through my desktop, so which is cool. So I was able to kind of bring different things on the screen as well. But being said, yes, it is a quiet phenomenon, and I say quiet because a lot of us as high achieving men, we don't talk about it. We don't discuss these things. So, excuse me. As I said, we're definitely going to dive more into that. So, as a executive coach, I've been working in this space for more than about 10 years. And the transformational piece of it, which like I like to call the integrated leadership piece of it, and that is in fact the transformation piece of it. I've been working in that space for nearly almost 30 years, actually. So that being said, guys, once more, my name is Curtis Brooks. I'm an executive coach. Today we're talking about the invisibility of success, why high achieving men feel unseen. And the reason why I call it a quiet phenomenon is because us men don't talk about it. We have achieved a lot of different things. In most cases, we have achieved it in, you could say, by and large, a good part of our goals. Maybe not all, but probably a significant amount of our goals. And the challenge with that being, again, not achieving goals, just never challenge with achieving your goals. But I think a lot of times what happens is that for us as men, and I talked about this yesterday on TikTok as well. We fail to not only communicate, but we fail to build relationships. Relationships are essential, guys. They're absolutely essential to the existence of life, to our level of happiness, our different levels of grief or disappointment, or our emotional stability and instability. So, and even though life with various relationships can appear to be, again, the up and down, the highs and the lows, the ebbs, the and things of that nature, they are essential. And oftentimes, high achieving men, us as high achieving men, we forsaken relationships, not because we don't want relationships, but we forsaken relationships for the sake of for the sake of it's difficult for us to figure them out. And I think not so much as it being difficult in relationships. By and large, it they can be difficult. They can be difficult because it takes a lot of giving of ourselves. It takes having to learn how to be unselfish with not only our time, but with our resources, with our own person, us as a person. So it does take us making a decision to sacrifice, compromise different things. And unfortunately, a lot of times, those sacrifices or those compromises that are needed in relationships, again, however we may be challenged in the way of relationships, excuse me, they are still significant and they are still important. But here's the challenge that a lot of us as high achieving men have. We forsaking those relationships because of the challenges. And it doesn't mean that high achieving men don't have relationships with people. Again, I'm not necessarily talking about intimate relationships, but that actually does spill over into intimate relationships. And then we'll touch bases on that in just a few moments. But by and large, relationships in general, be it just on a personal level or on a professional level, it's not that we as high achieving men don't desire those kind of relationships. Oftentimes, it's because the family dynamics, a lot of times, growing up in our different families, the variances of levels of communicating, it can be challenge for us as well. It's also, again, how did our fathers communicate with us? How did our fathers communicate with our with mom? Was dad there? Was mom the domineering personality? Even if dad was there, I know that was the kind of the setup in my household. So there are lots of different layers to this, but eventually the man who becomes that high achieving man, he will set in motion from his, his own challenges that he's dealt with. He will set in motion purposely to be about his career, seeking his profession and networking. And I again shared this on TikTok yesterday, is that oftentimes with the high achieving men, our network is working. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's something that we do obviously place value in it, but it's not necessarily something that we can lean on and trust, because high achieving men oftentimes have issues with trust. So let's get into some these specific points here. So, question: what do high value men, or not have, I apologize, not have, what do high achieving men value? What do they value? Well, again, it's not that they don't want relationships. It's not that they don't want relationships, but they want people that they can trust. And here's the interesting thing. A lot of times that because of the world that we live in, and again, so many different angles and perspectives and things that are taking place, uh, namely the mask that a lot of us have worn, and some of us are still wearing that mask. And unfortunately, what happens or what takes place is that the mask keeps us in a place where we have yet to touch that come in come in contact or the very essence of who we are outside of wearing that mask. And because we have not reached that pinnacle, or at least come to that place, and I will say pinnacle because it's a high place that you have to be prepared to compromise on some things. You'll have to be prepared to sacrifice some things to get to that high place, because it truly is a high level of love. It's a high level of understanding. It's it's a I believe it's the highest level. And I would say love is the highest level. And oftentimes, again, with high achieving men, we do have issues with trust. And because we have issues with trust, it becomes difficult for us to allow people into that space. And when we allow people into that space, it's because, again, various reasons. It's because they said something, or maybe they're on the same level financially, or through mindset. And so these conversations are not obviously just about high achieving men, but the conversations are about men who are feeling invisible. That is one of the biggest challenges that a lot of us as men, again, whether you're high achieving or you deem yourself as a man to be successful, whatever the case might be, we as men are dealing with the challenges of feeling invisible. Even married men, and I would even step out on a limb and say it is connected to that high place, that high place, I like to call the authentic place. And you'll hear a lot of conversations that are coming from me that I talk about that authentic place, because I think it's crucial to stepping out of that place for us as men where we're feeling invisible. It's absolutely crucial. Let's see here, guys. I apologize. It seems like I feel like I'm just a little bit scattered today. Got a few live streams, and I want to make sure that I'm doing things correctly, and that's part of my perfectionism, I think. But nevertheless, hopefully you can hear me. I was able to hear myself over in Substack, so I don't necessarily see any comments, and if there are, I do apologize if I have missed them. But nevertheless, guys, we're talking about the invisibility of success, why high achieving men feel unseen. Again, that is a quiet phenomenon that we, as high achieving men, are dealing with. And the reason why we're dealing with that is because, again, various degrees of different situations, but commonly it's our reluctancy to build true and solid relationships. It's our reluctancy to touch those spaces and areas within our own personal lives that have caused us pain. And so a lot of times high achieving men are dealing with some level of pain. It is painful to be invisible. I'll put it that way. It's painful to be invisible. And being invisible is, unfortunately, it comes, being a man, that comes with the territory. It doesn't have to, but it does. We live in a society that every man isn't lying. Most of us as men have experienced this either through childhood or now into our adult lives. We are experiencing or have experienced the space of, or that phenomenon, or being invisible. So it is not something that we're just conjuring up. It's not something that we're just trying to make up, but it is a reality. It is something, again, that not only high achieving men are dealing with, but men across the board. My group of men, my niche happens to be high achieving men, but again, it is not to single out men who are on a different spectrum, so to speak, that they're not dealing with being invisible. Because, as I mentioned, all of us, most of us as men, have dealt with that. I've dealt with that, and it's not easy, and it's so important to talk about these conversations or have these conversations. The reason why is because one of the things I mentioned yesterday on TikTok was that things, systems, not necessarily systems, but the unseen systems in life, spiritual things, things even on a molecular level, atoms and protons and neutrons, all those different things are always in motion. They're always in motion. And because they're always in motion, it also includes our very thoughts. It also includes our disposition as people, sometimes, or as men, people in general, but it includes that. Our very ideas, the thoughts that are coming past through our mind, they are always in motion. And so one moment we can be at the pinnacle of having a great day, everything's lining up, and the next moment, maybe just a few minutes or 5 minutes from now, we can find ourselves feeling like our energy has been drained. So my point again is that everything is in motion. Nothing sits still. The example that I had given yesterday was a bicycle. You take a brand new bicycle or any kind of object made of metal or plastic or whatever it's made of, and you sit it out in the element, such as just being outside. And through the course of time, months, years perhaps, through the wind blowing, carrying different abrasives within the air, they will blow across that particular object. The oxidation that happens, that takes place, and eventually that bicycle or that object is rusted or it becomes very brittle. And this is because the elements in life affect everything. They affect us as well. And so, that being said, it is the same thing with our thoughts. Our thoughts are always in motion, always in motion. Even when we're sitting still, there's something happening. And so naturally, we get to a place where high achieving men, are feeling invisible, unseen. One of the biggest reasons I mentioned earlier that they're feeling unseen is because of inability to their inability to trust in relationships, their inability to commit themselves to relationships. That's one of the biggest challenges that they're dealing with, that we deal with as high achieving men, is committing ourselves to relationships because we don't trust. The interesting piece of this is that my practice as a coach, as a men's life coach, is It's Not Rocket Science Coaching. That's the name of it. And I really like the name because at the end of the day, when we put the pieces together, throughout the course of our own lives, or as I'm talking about, or as I may be with a client, what happens to take place is that the elements go together. All the moving pieces that seem like they're all over, they happen to really fit and tell a story. And hence the name, it's not rocket science, because at some point we can feel a lot of different ways as men, but when we get to the crux of what we're dealing with, and this is why we have these, I have these conversations. This is why I have these kind of webinars, is that when we get to the crux of the conversations of what we're dealing with, not just the feelings, but overall the overall experience, and even to tap into those feelings, where some men will cry and some men will just go through certain things. Anger will show up, and in most cases, I know they're not angry with me, but having to touch that space again that we once deemed was, behind us. It can be difficult touching that space again, because in touching that space, it reminds us of a lot of pain. And so in most cases, for us as high achieving men, we will seek out careers, experiences on different levels. They happen to every last one of us. The different feelings that come up for each of these experiences, they happen to every last one of us. And again, the challenge for a lot of us as high achieving men is that we will forsaken the relationships, personal relationships, and even professional relationships. And here's what I mean by forsaking those professional relationships. We understand that the relationships are important, especially coming from a professional space, for us as high achieving men. So we do understand that those relationships are important, but we don't really place a value on those relationships, because we know that they're just work. And if we were to place any kind of value or significance on those relationships, that would mean that we would have to eventually, or perhaps, tap into that space that we've been having challenges with. Again, many high achieving men have difficulty being in relationships, not because they don't want them, not because they're bad people, not because they're hiding anything. And to them, it may feel like they're hiding something, but in most cases, it's because of past experiences, the feelings, the rejection, the abandonment, just like regular people, guys. Just like regular people who are dealing with, again, who are enjoying success, who have experienced success. And actually, a good friend of mine on LinkedIn shared a post on Substack earlier, and he mentioned something about success in regards to the video that I shared on Substack. And interesting enough, he shared a thought. I was just like, wow, that's pretty interesting, because a lot of times what happens too, we as high achieving men, we can hide behind the success, and behind the success can be a host of different experiences where they're just left there trying to, just collecting dust, so to speak. A host of experiences collecting dust. And yet we detach our feelings from that. It could be shame. It could be abandonment. It could be, again, a lot of different things. But nevertheless, we can find ourselves as high achieving men forsaking the relationships, because relationships, let's admit it, relationships take work, guys. Relationships are work, and they're work because we as people, we have to compromise. Sometimes I just don't want to compromise. We have to make sacrifices in relationships. Again, I'm not talking about intimate relationships. I'm talking about either a personal relationship to a good friend or a professional relationship. We're talking about high achieving men. The invisibility of success. This is the topic of our discussion. High achieving men, the invisibility of success, why high achieving men feel unseen. I shared with you earlier, there's a host of different reasons why they feel unseen. And with that being said, I'm going to take a break here and share some information on the screen and relate it to a free webinar that's taking place December the 9th here on Zoom. So I'm actually located in Texas, near Houston, and in event the webinar is free. Let me go ahead and put it on the screen here. Information on the screen here. All right, there you go. So you can reach out with more information to in regards to the webinar, the free webinar that's uncovering the core, your path from success to significance. Again, one of the bigger reasons why high achieving men are dealing with being invisible. And as I promised, I'm going to get more into that being invisible because, again, obviously it's not just relegated to high achieving men. It's people in general, guys. It's women too. It's men, it's kids. And again, the young boys become men, the young girls become women at some point. And so you have young people who are dealing with this invisibility. It is a mindset, guys. It's a mindset, and it absolutely can be changed. It's a mindset, a shift, a transformation, so to speak, or to speak more directly, a transformation absolutely has to take place. So, in fact, it is a mindset. So, again, on December 9th at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, I believe it is now. December 9th, we've got Uncovering the Core, Your Path from Success to Significance. We're talking with high achieving men. The link is there on the screen at bit.ly/60-minute journey. So it is going to be an hour-long discussion. Actually, just shy of an hour. We'll make room and leave some time for questions that the men will have. But nevertheless, you can visit that link, get more information about that free webinar. Again, that's entitled Uncovering the Core, Your Path from Success to Significance, bit.ly/60-minute journey. So it will, we'll dive more into a lot of things that I'm not sharing with you now. I absolutely, I want to cover those things now for obvious reasons, but those topics or conversations will absolutely be covered within the webinar. We're going to dive into some deep stuff. And the webinar, here's the thing now, the webinar is free, and it's only, its capacity is for 35 people. I'm keeping it small, and if I'm honest with myself, it probably should have been smaller, because when you're sharing information on this level in regards to what I will be sharing during this webinar, it takes a lot. It's very taxing. And not only that for myself, but the level of retention. I want to make sure that the men are being able to retain the information. And oftentimes when it's too many people, it doesn't mean that the men will be jumping all over the walls and things of that nature, but the energy, basically, the energy that sometimes that is brought into certain spaces can be distracting from one person to another. And so when you have so many people in one space talking about spiritual matters and things of that nature, it can be the energy when the room is too big, too many people, it can be we can find ourselves pulled in a lot of different directions. So again, I wanted to keep it small. So the limit is 35 people. So make sure you visit that link that's on the screen. That's bit.ly/60-minute journey. That is Uncovering the Core, Your Path from Success to Significance. We're working with high achieving men, and we're going to dive into some really deep stuff, gentlemen. And again, we're not going to cover it again for obvious reasons in this conversation, but we will cover those things during the webinar. And so you're definitely invited. Share this information with a friend, or share this live stream out with others. We're live streaming on Substack. We're on YouTube. We're also on Facebook. So if you connect with me on Facebook, it's going to be under Curtis Brooks. I've been given reports that people have had a difficult time finding me over on Facebook. On YouTube, it's at Men's Life Coaching. Again, the at sign at Men's Life Coaching on YouTube. And on Substack, it's Curtis Brooks, actually, or Brooks Curtis on Substack. You can find me here on Substack. So that being said, guys, this is real. This is real for us. This is real for us as men. And one of the bigger reasons that we as men are feeling the pain of being invisible is due to a dismissiveness that takes place. And obviously, I know this dismissiveness in language and in communication is not relegated just to men, and it's not something that men only are dealing with. It's across the board. Men and women alike are dealing with that dismissive language, and oftentimes that dismissive language or communication styles of different styles of communication, they started when we were just small. They started within our own households. Perhaps dad was dismissive to mom. Perhaps mom was dismissive to dad, and they argued a lot. And hence, again, one of the challenges that would, for us as high achieving men, that would prevent us from dealing with the relationships, coming from households where there's a lot of bickering, a lot of arguing back and forth. And so the chances of us as high achieving men wanting to enter into a relationship is probably pretty slim. It's not that we don't want to be in relationships. It's not that we can't trust people, but in most cases, there are the stories that predate our particular situations in most cases. There are backstories. We all have backstories. And so again, it can be the dismissive language, communications, different dismissive communication styles. Necessary as style, but just the way we communicate sometimes. I've had to learn a lot with that, guys. So I'm not just tossing some language out here that I haven't dealt with myself. I've had to learn that and deal with that as well. So that's important to understand that is part of that healing journey, guys. That is part of that healing journey that needs to take place. That is part of that space that I talked about moments ago, being authentic, reaching the pinnacle of that space, not allowing the energy of others to pull us from that the comforts of being once we have reached the pinnacle of and I would even say success, and learning how to be authentic. I think this is a great place. Once you reach that place, you have to be prepared to not allow the energy of others to pull you out from that space. Because in most cases, when we're in that space of learning and knowing what being authentic means, and being able to touch it, being able to, again, communicate it, we can find that space being home. Really, you can find that space as a home. This is where I live at. This is my residence. This is my address now. But because of the energy, again, and some people may not want to hear this or care about to hear it, but the fact that everything emits energy, everything emits energy. And because everything that's living emits energy. And because people emit energy, in most cases, some energy levels are stronger than others that come from people. Some is not as strong. But when you've reached as a high achieving man, when you have reached that place where you're able to communicate authenticity, you're able to again say, hey, this is my address. This is where I live at. It doesn't mean that you have not been, as high achieving men, that we have not been through our course of different things. It doesn't mean that. But it does mean that we've put the work in, and it's worth everything. It's worth everything. And so I did mention that I wanted to talk about this being invisible. Being invisible is real. Again, I did mention it earlier. It's not just an experience, but as I said earlier, it's a mindset. It's a mindset that can be changed, but perhaps on different levels due to dismissive communication styles when we were younger, due to abandonment issues, due to rejection issues, and in most cases, it came from our own households. We don't always know our father's backstory. Let's face it, people tell us what they want us to hear. Even our own parents, they tell us what they want to hear. We don't always know mom's backstory. And again, even mommies, mothers tell us what they want to hear. People in general, they tell us what they want to hear, what they want us to hear. In some cases, the story could be true, the story could not be true. But either way, the story that they've given us is the story that we have to put our trust in. That's the story that we stand on. That's the story that we come to believe. Again, right or wrong, good or indifferent, that's the story that we're given. And so we put our trust on that story. Again, that becomes the foundation of who mom and dad are. And whether we find out something different as we get older, whether we, again, seeing through our own eyes and being able to connect the dots, the point is that our parents have a backstory. They've dealt with their stuff or are still dealing with their stuff. And in most cases, their expression of what they have not dealt with, or the doors that have not been closed, the things that have not been finalized in their lives, they play themselves out in how they deal with us as their offspring. And naturally, when we have mom who has unresolved issues, when we have our fathers dealing with his unresolved issues, you're going to have conflict because we haven't quite figured it out in here. And what's going on here, when we're not able to solve the problem in here, we take the problem outward and we begin to project those thoughts and feelings, and again, those shortcomings, those deficiencies, the feeling of being inadequate, we begin to project those things on other people. And if we're projecting on our spouse, our significant other, we're sure as well in most cases projecting it on our children, because in most cases our children are without defense. They're without a defense. And oftentimes, as the children who become the adults eventually, the high achieving adults, man or a woman, but they become the high achieving adults, naturally they're dealing with the unresolved issues that mom and dad had. Because rest assured, now think about this now. If mom and dad, having dealt with their unresolved issues, or is there, again, just the family dynamics, if there are issues that come up that are unresolved, the offspring, we as the offspring, we don't know the beginning of the story in most cases. We just see and hear the bickering, the arguing, the fussing, going back and forth. We don't know the beginning of that story. And so here we are as the offspring who will eventually become the high achieving adults. Because we don't know the beginning of the origin of that story, We've come somewhere in the middle. We literally have a story without a beginning. And so naturally, what happens? We can find ourselves going round and around and around, arguing about something, a particular subject matter. And here, let me explain this way. It's not necessary that we're going to have the same argument. But because mom and dad, again, its manifestation is that because mom and dad were short on resolving conflict, their own personal conflict first, and then their conflict together. And because as the offspring, again, we don't know the origin of their stories. And so its manifestation in our lives, in our respective lives, is, or it shows up in a way where we are in this conflict, not knowing how to tie the ends of it, not knowing how to resolve the issue. So when the issues come up, the conflict resolution says bye bye, because we're not accustomed to seeing mom and dad resolve issues. So when the issues show up in our lives, maybe not the same matters or same situations, but when they show up in our own personal lives or professional lives, what happens? Even in those intimate relationships, when those issues show up, again, maybe not the same situations, but when they do show up, our reluctancy to know how, or we don't know how to figure it out. So we end up arguing a point with no end to it. As promised, I want to touch bases on this invisibility and why it is so important for us men to get a hold of it, and being prepared to change our mindset. It's hugely important. Before I dive into that, I do want to bring on the screen here. And again, my purpose for having this conversation is twofold. It is going to be to talk about the importance of men, high achieving men, being seen, going from success to significance, because we know that success is subjective. It's definitely subjective. It's a mindset that, and in most cases, that's evasive because it is subjective. So that being said, guys, I get the other piece, or the other half of the reason why I'm coming on, is that I want to share with you a free webinar that's taking place December the 9th at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. It is a Zoom webinar, and the seating capacity is kept small. It's only 35 people. As I mentioned earlier, I could have absolutely had only 20 to 25 people within this webinar. And the reason why I would want to keep it smaller, or even decided to use this number, because in actuality, I wanted to say 50 people. But here's the reason why small, intimate settings are important, because of what I shared with you earlier. Every living being emits energy, all right? Good energy, bad energy, indifferent energy, or just whatever you want to call it, they emit energy. And from one person to another person, the other person's energy can be distracting. And so the more people you have in this space, the more potentially, the bigger the distraction gets. People become unsettled. And so we wanted to keep it in an intimate space. So again, if I'm frank with you, it could have probably been fewer people. So we've got it capped at 35 people. So on screen, you see the information that's uncovering the core. Your path from success to significance. We're talking to high achieving men. The link there is on the screen, bit.ly/, 60-minute journey. And so that is going to be a 60-minute conversation, and very much engaging conversation, guys. I'm going to pour a lot into this conversation. I'm going to be pouring a lot into you during this conversation, because that's what I've been created to do. For me as a man, I'm in my purpose. I'm in my vein. I'm in my authenticity. I've been working in this space for quite some time now as an executive coach, and also specializing in transformational leadership. So I'm saying that to say is that these things, guys, this place that you will arrive at some point, it does not happen overnight, guys. It's not a brag. It's not any of that. It's not easy. So that's why I'm saying to you, it's definitely not a brag. It's definitely not a brag. It's a place where I'm proud, if I can say that word and use that very loosely. Not proud and beating my chest and say, "Hey, I've arrived. I'm special, and I'm more special in the next person." No, that's not what I mean. What I mean by saying that is that this thing took work. It still takes work. It's not over, guys. But if you are a man and who is dealing with this mindset, or you're feeling that you are invisible, or you have just been unseen, you have acquired all kinds of different things. You've got the house, the car, or different pieces of property. You've got the stock portfolio. You got all these different things, but still at the top of the summit, you've success is in your hand. Success is in the on the horizon, and you're headed places, but still you feel invisible. You need to be here. We're gonna uncover some things that absolutely need to be uncovered. And now here's the thing. Other thing I want to share with you. As promised, I want to talk to you about being invisible. We got about 13 minutes. I wanted to make sure I was on no longer than an hour. So, in respect of your time, because I am on kind of late here. So, again, make sure you visit that link there. Again, the seating capacity is only 35 people. Make sure you check it out. Again, bit.ly/ 60-minute journey, guys. I promise you will not be disappointed. I'll put it out there. I'll put that out there. You will not be disappointed, guys. So now, here's the other piece of this. As promised, this is why, for us as high achieving men, and as I mentioned earlier, we know that it's not just high achieving men. At least I hope you know that it's not just high achieving men who are feeling invisible or feeling unseen, and they've accomplished all kinds of different things in their lifetime, fulfilled different goals, and have all kinds of different people pulling on them. And they've got answers for all kinds of people, and they're great help. And in most cases, high achieving men, they're givers. Quietly, they're quiet givers. Be honest. And the challenge is that they often feel taken for granted. And again, I know this is not just relegated to high achieving men. This is men in general. A lot of us men feel unappreciated, taken for granted. But here's the reason why we as men, regardless of your financial situation, regardless of what you may have achieved in life, here's why we must tackle this mindset of feeling unseen and invisible. Because, as I shared with you earlier, because energy is always in motion. Energy does not sit still. Okay? That's not just to give you a scientific analogy or points and things of this nature, but it is to give you facts that energy, we as people, we're energy, and energy does not sit still. And even if we are still in our bodies. We're just sitting in a chair. There's still energy moving around us, and we're still emitting energy, whatever low level or capacity. We're still emitting energy, and so because this place that we've arrived at, as oftentimes it's a high achievement of being unseen, feeling invisible, or feeling invisible, I should say. This place that we've arrived at, it's true for our own purposes, to our own reality. It's a reality for us. But the challenge is that when that reality is left unchecked, meaning that we're perhaps ashamed of something, perhaps dealing with have dealt with a traumatic situation, different experiences, unable to allow those feelings to surface. And when they do surface, we either are trying to drink ourselves away. We're either trying to go to the gym. We're either trying to make ourselves busy. We're either trying to focus ourselves on our career, our profession. We're either thumbing through our contact list, our list of people that we know. All these things that keep us busy. But nevertheless, the seed, the thought of being invisible is still tracking. It's still digging itself into the roots of our heart and into the roots of our own mind, if you will. Again, follow me with this scenario. It's still kind of doing what it needs to do. If you ever have planted a seed in the ground, the mindset of being invisible or unseen works the same way. And over a period of time, that mindset, that seed that's been planted, that we have planted, it has a tendency to work itself into the soil. And when it works itself into the soil, it doesn't always show up right away. And in most cases, we have started our career's doing great, and maybe even in a relationship with someone. But all of a sudden, or what seems to be all of a sudden, that seed or the growth, or we begin to see the leaves of that feeling, those feelings of being unseen or feeling invisible. They begin to show their ugly head. And in most cases, oftentimes, the seed was planted well before the very moment or that situation that we're in. They may have been planted years ago. In most cases, as children, as children dealing with different things that I kind of went over that earlier. So when the seed is planted, it has a tendency to show up at the most inopportune moment. And because energy is always in motion, even the thoughts themselves are energy. And because the energy is always in motion, the energy has a tendency to take on a different form. So it's no longer just a thought that just sits there. It's no longer just, man, I accomplish all these different things and I'm great at what I do. Or I feel accomplished. Maybe that's the conversation other people are giving you, what other people have shared with you, but you're not feeling that way. In most cases, it's the seed of all kinds of different issues. The seed of abandonment, the seed of rejection, the seed of hopelessness, the seed of dealing with parents who argued a lot. Again, layers and layers and layers of this stuff, guys. And how it manifests itself is in different forms. I shared with you earlier. there was a root cause to, or a origin for our stories. Every last one of us, including our parents, there's an origin to their stories. But if we don't know, as the offspring who will eventually become the adults, high achieving adults, because we don't know the origin of that story, we've come in somewhere in the middle of that. And we see them, or as our parents, they're talking about, or they're dealing with their feelings. All these are their feelings. They're the expression of anger. Because we know in most cases, if you're in this space of working with your clients, or as a coach, if you're in this space, you understand that anger is not necessarily directed at, it can be obviously directed at a person, but oftentimes anger has underlying issues. And so when we're working with, as children, as offspring of our children, as offspring of our parents, when we are seeing our parents go through different things, being unsettled in their conflict, or have not resolved the conflict, what happens is that, again, we have come somewhere in the middle of that story. And because we've come somewhere in the middle of that story, we find ourselves not knowing how to deal with the conflict. And again, here's the caveat to that invisibility. Mom and dad's issue may not have been the same, but because the energy changes over a period of time, its manifestation is you and I, as high achieving men, now feeling invisible. We don't know what the issue or the origin of what mom and dad dealt with. But because of their inability to resolve their conflict, not only from mom as an individual, or to dad separately and respectfully to each person, not solving their own issues, and eventually coming together as a husband and wife, or your significant other, not being able to resolve that conflict, that energy or their lack thereof shows up within us, or again, that's how we see it. That's how we practice it. It's essentially been practiced before us, so to speak. And so how mom and dad may have practiced, and again, obviously I'm saying practice but it's obviously not practice, but these are real life issues, real life things that take place. But because it was shown in front of us, we seen mom and dad live out these things, and in turn had to become what we practiced. And its manifestation was now we feel unseen. We feel invisible. And because the energy is always moving, even from that space of being invisible, it has the propensity to take on yet a different energy, such as depression, such as mental disorder or disease. And it's not to scare you, but I want you to understand that nothing remains the same. Nothing remains the same. Our issues, our challenges that we're dealing with, they don't remain the same. In most cases, the arguments gets bigger. Excuse me. In most cases, we learn how to argue the we learn how to argue that thing that we're feeling uncomfortable with. We become skilled at our own arguments. That's good, man. That's good. We become skilled at our own arguments. Therefore, what happens is that we end up deceiving ourselves, because at the crux of what we're dealing with, high achieving men oftentimes are dealing with are the feelings, the feelings that have come with those individual experiences. And I get it. I get it. Those feelings sometimes undealt with, again, when they can seem like they've teamed up on us in life and appear like they're opening up a floodgate. So I absolutely get it. But, excuse me, this is why this free webinar is so important, because we need to put boundaries. We need to learn how to build bridges. And so within this free webinar that I mentioned, I'm actually going to be wrapping it up here soon, guys. So hopefully you've enjoyed this conversation. Not only was it just entertainment, but it was something that you can use to change your life. And that's what that's what the promise of this free webinar is. Again, something that's going to change your life if you are so inclined to be a part of this free webinar. It is taking place on December the 9th. At 6 p.m. Central Time. The link is on the screen there, bit.ly/60-minute journey. The title of this free webinar is Uncovering the Core, Your Path from Success to Significance. So I talk pretty extensively within this conversation as it relates to men who are successful and what they're dealing with. Obviously, I did not cover the topics of discussion for the actual webinar for obvious reasons. I'm not going to cover those things. We'll keep them for the webinar, the free webinar that's taking place again December the 9th at 6 p.m. Central Time. I'm located here in Texas. So if you are Eastern Time along the East Coast, you're an hour ahead. So that's going to be 7 o'clock your time. If you are on the West Coast, I believe we are 2 hours behind. So that's going to be 4 o'clock your time. So, and I'm not sure on Mountain Time. I think Mountain Time is just an hour, so it might just be 5 o'clock if I'm not mistaken. So, that being said, guys, I hope that you have enjoyed this conversation. Once again, my name is Curtis Brooks, and I am an executive coach. I help high achieving men master the art of integrated leadership and authentic masculine presence through comprehensive transformation rather than quick fixes. So again, hopefully you've enjoyed this conversation, and it's been more than just entertainment, but something that you will put into practice for change in your own personal lives. So guys, don't have any outro music. I apologize because I love my outro music. But in any event, guys, I will say goodbye, and we'll say ciao for now. Bye-bye.